Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's Workshop. So today I'm going to prepare the bedding or dressing for Pop and Miss Betty's new bed. Now, Pop and Miss Betty are the doll couple that got married on Christmas Eve. And I'm quite ashamed to admit that I just built their bed. Now, I do have a video for when I created that bed from a kit, and there's also a video to show you how I enhanced the actual bed itself, and I will leave a link in the description. Now in this frame, I'm creating the base part to the mattress, the part I'm going to rest the foam on. Now I originally had one that came with the kit, but somehow I have tucked it away again for safekeeping, and now I can't find it. So I found this random piece of cardboard that I salvaged from some packaging, and I'm going to use it as the base. It's not as firm as the one that came with the kit, but it's going to have to do. Now I want you to take note, I trimmed off that little extra edge because I want to leave a slight border between the actual cardboard and the sides of the bed, because as you add the layers of bedding, it's going to make things wider. So this is something you'll have to be mindful of if you are dressing a bed that doesn't already come with its own bedding, and also if you make your bed from scratch. Now here in this frame, you can see that I'm just testing out the piece of foam that I cut to line up with the cardboard base for the mattress. Now dolls, this is that wedding gift that was gifted to Pop and Miss Betty from my precious doll Raggedy Pal. So I absolutely want to use this as part of Miss Betty and Pop's new bedding. So I have this lovely piece of white jacquard fabric that I thought would be perfect to cover the mattress with, to give the impression that it's covered with a fitted sheet. And this really soft mauve pink, I'm thinking about maybe making some extra throw pillows, a bolster, or something like that. But I'm going to focus on the mattress today. And I really love this white jacquard. Let me kind of like hold it up so you can see the pretty soft pattern that's on that. So I think that's perfect as a sheet. So let me put aside the gifted bedding and focus exclusively on the mattress. So here I am with my little soft rubber cup, and I'm going to add a little glue so I don't have to keep squeezing my bottle along the way. Now, although this is what I did, this is not a good practice to leave your bottle upside down because you can get distracted. Because if you walk away too long, you can come back to a glue disaster. But thankfully I didn't, and I squeezed out just enough to complete my project. Now, it would be a best practice to measure your fabric before you start, but yeah, I didn't. Now, I took the piece of fabric to kind of wrap it around the foam to see how much of it I would need to use. And my general concept for making the mattress cover is to treat it like I was wrapping a small package. Now, although I didn't do specific measurements, I did look at the piece of fabric that I had and determined that some of it was excess and I didn't want to use more than I needed. Now, you want to look at the pattern of your fabric and make sure everything's lined up the way you want it. And then I flip the cardboard over to expose the part that will be hidden next to the foam. And I use my handy spreader to apply the glue. And I mainly wanted to focus on the perimeter of the cardboard, just enough to secure it to the foam so that it won't shift around while I'm dressing the bed. And dolls, it is a good idea to allow the foam and the cardboard to set before you move on to adding your fabric. Now here I'm using the spreader again, but I'm using a slightly heavier application because I want the bond to be secure. Now dolls, I want you to be neat and careful, but don't be overly concerned because this part is going to be facing the floor. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm using the same technique that you would use if you were wrapping a small gift. Now this process is very simple, but it's a couple things you want to keep in mind. You want to make sure you pull everything really tight because you want to give the impression that there's a fitted sheet covering the mattress. And when it's all done, your mattress should look something like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and try it on the bed. Now this is the part you can really see and understand why it was so important to leave a little border around the base when I was creating the mattress. But I'm really tickled about how nice it looks. It's an absolutely beautiful sheet, and the pattern really gives you the impression of lace. So I think it's absolutely perfect for the new bride and groom. So now I want to go ahead and incorporate the linen that was gifted to the dolls for their wedding. And this piece is sort of like a top sheet. So I'm going to just simply wrap it around the mattress and give the impression that it's all tucked in. Now, when I got the top sheet on, I remembered there was another piece that was somewhat like a comforter. So I wanted to incorporate that into it, but when I put it on top, it just kind of looked a little bit bulky. So I'm thinking maybe I'll save that for another project. So I'm absolutely going to use the two decorative pillows that were included in the little bundle with the sheet and the comforter. But then I have these cute little striped pillows that were a gift from another unboxing. And I think they fit perfectly on the bed. And they kind of break up some of the white because I'm not necessarily trying to make everything look matchy. I really want everything to look comforting and cozy. So now that I have this part of the dressing of the bed together, I just want to see how it looks in the room. And here I am in the original Dress Shop Dollhouse, and I really like the way everything is coming together. And if you look really close, you'll notice that nightstand next to the bed is the one I created from a kit in another video and finished it the same way as the bed. And I just want to zoom in here a little bit so you can see there's still a nice amount of space over there between the nightstand and the beautiful dresser. But I want to zoom out here so you can see I've included that highboy that I added hardware and cabriole legs to. So all in all, I really like the bedroom and the bedding, but I feel like it needs something a little extra, something to warm things up and make the room really look nice and cozy. So dolls, I was trying to wrap things up, but I had to pull out my lace, and I just happen to be one of those people that believe that lace is appropriate for any occasion, but especially in the instance of a newlywed couple's new bed. So this lovely piece of lace is actually wide enough to really cover up more than half of the bed, but I'm going to cut it just so it'll drape over the side. I just more or less want it to look more like a throw rather than a full blanket. Now here you can see I'm just trimming off the ends of the lace to make sure it's even because I don't want any strings to be hanging. So dolls, I attempted the freestyle trimming off the ends of the lace, but it didn't work out very well. So I had to match the two sides and trim the opposing side to match the original cut. So now that I've trimmed it off so that it's even on both sides, I can't leave that free edge raw like that. I need something to finish it off. So as we move to this next part, I'm just going to allow you dolls to watch me play. And I really want to encourage you dolls to always leave room for play when you're working on your miniature projects, because that's where all the great ideas show up. Now I had a couple ideas as to what lace or trim I wanted to use to finish off the lace, but the first one I tried was too light. So after a few minutes of going through my bags and bins of what are you keeping that for, I found this lace, and I think it's the perfect shade and weight. Now, dolls, you know I only sew when it's absolutely necessary, and in this case, it is not. So I used my Aleene's tacky glue and added it right to the edge of my lace and put my finishing piece right on top of that glue. And it turned out even better than I originally had imagined. And although I really like the way this cream lace laying next to the white looks, it looks really, really pretty and soft, it still feels like something is missing. So dolls, I had this beautiful quilt that I've been saving for a special occasion. I think this is it. This is a lovely quilt that was gifted to me by my precious doll Figgy. And I really love the way the colors in the quilt complement the paint job that I did on Pop and Miss Betty's new bed. Now dolls, I usually add water and glue solution to shape my blankets on my beds when I'm dressing the beds. But this beautiful quilt is way too precious for me to ever think that I could put glue on it. And I want to use the lace as well as the quilt, but I don't want the lace to cover up the quilt. And I've got the two little striped pillows, but then if I put the striped pillows and the white pillows will cover up the design of the quilt. So after pondering and going back and forth about how I was going to use all of the different elements that I wanted to include in dressing this bed, I decided to go ahead and start with the quilt. And dolls, I'm so excited to be able to display this quilt because I've been saving it for a special occasion for quite some time. And this is the perfect opportunity. So here in this frame, I've dampened the sides of the quilt so that I can shape it to the bed. And the fabric was so soft it conformed really nicely. And when I realized how well it was working, I added a little bit more water across the top so that I could fold the quilt down a little bit to show off the underside of the quilt. And I did add little clamps to kind of weight it down until everything dried. And dolls, I don't know if you can even imagine how excited I am to finally have Miss Betty and Pop's bed all complete, because I was feeling so bad that they've been married since December and they didn't have a bed for their new home. And at first I was a little bit worried about having so many extra pillows, but I think as a newlywed couple, they're going to appreciate all the extra pillows. Now, if this is your first time watching and you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. And always look for me on Mondays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So dolls, I'm really excited about Pop and Miss Betty's new room. So now I can get to putting up the curtains and adding in accessories so I can really customize and personalize their new space. So let me go take this bed back to the room and see how it looks with everything all together, because I'm so excited to be this close to getting them in the room. So dolls, here we are back in Pop and Miss Betty's new bedroom. I think the quilt looks perfect, even with the little lace throw. I think it looks really nice and cozy. And I even found a little rug to put right there at the foot of the bed. And we're going to leave those pillows there so they can use them as needed. And I'm kind of thinking that little space right there is the perfect size for a tiny hope chest. Now, as always, I truly enjoy creating these videos for you dolls. So let me get back to my table and get the rest of these ideas out of my head. And until next time, I'm looking forward to seeing you right here on Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.